My name's Dave Anderson. I'm with the Mass Highway Department. I represent the highway design engineer from the Boston office of the Massachusetts Highway Department. I was directed by the chief engineer, Ross Dindio, to conduct tonight's hearing. First, I would like to introduce the members of the staff. On the end is Charlie O'Brien of our Right-of-Way Bureau. This is Andrea Norton-Wenzel of the District 4 office. Steve McLaughlin, also of the District 4 office. And this is Richard Tarbox of ATM, who will be making a verbatim transcript of tonight's hearing. We're going to commence the formal part of this hearing by having Andrea Norton-Wenzel read the notice of a public hearing.
The Commonwealth of Massachusetts Highway Department. Notice of a public hearing. A design public hearing will be held by the Massachusetts Highway Department to discuss the proposed roadway reconstruction project for Route 28 in the town of Milton, where Cunningham Park Auditorium, 75 Edge Hill Road, Milton, Massachusetts. When? November 14th, 1994 at 8 p.m. Purpose. The purpose of this meeting is to provide the public with the opportunity to become fully acquainted with the proposed project. All views and comments made at the meeting will be reviewed and considered to the maximum extent possible. Proposal. The proposed project consists of the reconstruction of Route 28 from the Quincy-Milton town line to the intersection with Reedsdale Road, a distance of approximately 2 miles. This project will include some widening, minor changes in roadway alignment, the installation of traffic signals, new traffic signs, and pavement markings. The department is in the process of filing the necessary environmental documents for this project. Minor land takings and temporary slope easements will be required throughout the project area. The department's policy regarding right-of-way acquisitions will be discussed at the meeting. Written views received by the department subsequent to the date of this notice and up to 5 days prior to the date of the meeting shall be displayed for public inspection and copying at the date and time listed above. Written statements and other exhibits in place of or in addition to oral statements at the public hearing regarding the proposed undertaking are to be submitted to Ross B. Dindio, P.E., Chief Engineer, Massachusetts Highway Department, 10 Park Plaza, Boston, Massachusetts, 02116-3973. Such submissions will also be accepted at the meeting. The final date for receipt of these statements and exhibits will be 10 days after this public hearing. Plans will be on display for 1 hour before the meeting with an engineer in attendance to answer questions in regard to the project. Ross B. Dindio, P.E., Chief Engineer, Lorinda T. Bedingfield, Commissioner, Boston, Massachusetts.
Thank you, Andrea. This notice appeared in the Patriot Ledger on October 31st and again on November 7th. It also appeared in the Milton Record transcript on October 28th and in the Boston Globe on November 10th. Page 3 of the brochure you received explains the purpose of this hearing, which is to give us the opportunity to make a formal presentation of the proposed project and at the same time allow to record your comments regarding the project. This project is funded under the National Highway System program. The federal government will fund 80% of the construction costs and the Commonwealth will fund the remaining 20%. The estimated cost of this project is approximately $2.5 million. I would like to ask Charlie O'Brien to explain the right-of-way procedures.
Thank you, Dave. Good evening. My name is Charlie O'Brien, and I'm a right-of-way agent with the Mass Highway Department. The Right-of-Way Bureau is responsible for acquiring the rights and property by eminent domain for the proposed Route 28 project. At this time, the plans are not fully developed to show specific acquisitions. So it's not appropriate for me to answer any specific questions. I will be available at the conclusion of this hearing and answer all questions concerning the department, how the department will acquire the land, and I will stay until all questions are answered. I will say that generally there are two ways in which the department acquires property. One is temporary for construction and sloping purposes. The other one is permanent, where the land becomes part of the highway. I will close my portion of this hearing by saying that if your property is affected by the project, you will be individually contacted by an agent of the Right-of-Way Bureau, and at that time you will be informed how your land is to be affected and what your rights are under eminent domain law. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Charlie. I'm not going to have Steve McLaughlin describe the project in detail for you. I would ask that you hold your questions until after Steve has completed his presentation. Before he starts, I just want to say we're at a little bit of a disadvantage in that in order to get a verbatim transcript, Steve won't be able to speak from the plan, but he's going to do the best he can from up here. Steve?
Good evening. Tonight we've come here to finish what we came here about 5 years ago to talk about Route 28 in Milton. There's a 2-mile stretch of roadway, as you all know, that's had an awful lot of accidents. It's had about 500 accidents in the last 10 years. About 5 years ago, in May of 1988, we came here and we proposed our solution to fix the road was to make it a 5-lane highway instead of a 4-lane highway. The 5th lane would be a center turning lane, because we felt that most of the accidents that had occurred were due to turning movements, people trying to turn into their driveways and take a left-hand turns onto other streets. At that time, the public was overwhelmingly in opposition to the project. So tonight, we're here again with a toned-down version of that, with turning lanes only at 3 intersections, the major intersections where most of the accidents occurred, and the rest of the width will be pretty consistent. In some cases, we're going to reduce the width, and in other cases, widening it. That's pretty much the project tonight. We will propose signals at Hillside. It does meet the warrants. In putting those in, traffic will be regulated to about 45 miles per hour going from Chickatawba to Hillside. If people go faster than that, they'll hit a red light. If they go slower, they may hit the red light as well. In a couple areas, we're going to improve the sight distance of the roadway. 2, to be specific, just south of the Chickatawba intersection. People can't see coming over the hill, and there have been a lot of accidents there at Chickatawba Road. And the other place is at Hillside. You can't really see coming over the hill there either. So we're going to take off about a foot, maybe 8 inches to a foot in that area as well. I guess we'll answer all the questions that you have throughout the evening, and more design criteria will come up as to why we did certain things then.
Thank you, Steve. The plans that we're presenting here are not complete. The next step will be to review the comments we received this evening and amend and complete the plans. I just want to talk about a few ground rules. This was a brochure that was located up front as you came in. I'm not sure whether we ran out or not. Are there any left? I guess we ran out. You may have to share the brochure. I just want to talk just briefly about it. The notice of the public hearing that Andrea read is on page 3. This is also discussing why we hold public hearings. There's a locus map, an in-depth description of the work we're proposed, similar to what Steve just narrated. There's also a very important sheet at the end here. There are 2 different ways that your comments can be incorporated into the transcript. One is you can come to the microphone here, and another is you can send in this last page to the chief engineer, and we can receive your comments that way. Before we open the hearing, I would ask that if you do wish to come to the microphone to speak, that you first state your name, identify your affiliation, whether you're an abutter, a town official, or just a concerned citizen. This is necessary so that we can keep a verbatim transcript. Next, it's standard procedure to ask any elected federal, state, or local officials to offer their comments first. So are there any federally elected officials here who would like to speak? Are there any state elected officials here who would like to speak? Are there any locally elected officials who would like to speak? Yes.
Good evening. I'm Catherine Dunphy, and I'm Chairman of the Board of Selectmen. And the other two selectmen, John Michael Shields and Joe McEtrick, join me in thanking representatives of Mass Highway for coming out to Milton to present your plans for reconstruction of Randolph Avenue. We would also like to thank again the 6 members of a committee of residents who live either on or near Randolph Avenue for reviewing the plans in advance of the meeting and reporting to us. And would further like to thank all of the residents who've come tonight. We are at a public hearing. We are here to hear your comments. If you speak tonight, we're listening very carefully. We know that safety is a primary issue that's on all our minds. If you do not wish to speak tonight, we hope that you would take the last page of that handout and send your comments into the state. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other locally elected officials who would like to speak?
My name is James Deneen, 21 Hilltop Street, Milton, Mass. I'm a town meeting member elected from Precinct 8, which runs along Randolph Avenue from Chickatawbut down through to quite near here. I speak this evening in support of the report of the committee, but further than that, I would like to call to your department's attention something that in the drafting of the plans works a great inequity and hardship on myself and my neighbors on Hilltop Street. There is, in order to create some kind of a perturbation for traffic going south at approaching the Hillside Street proposed traffic light, there is a barrier on the plan which for 25 years I traveled south onto 128, and that would make it very difficult, particularly in stormy and snowy weather, because that would be an unplowed section of the highway. It would be a rubble street with rubble implanted there to make the traffic that's going south avoid it. But it would be a terrible hardship for me and my neighbors in getting out and going south to 128. If it is possible, I would like to ask your consideration for eliminating that rubble on the street, which runs about 150 or 200 feet, and the way it effectively blocks our southern approach to Randolph Avenue. Thank you very much.
I'd just like to respond just briefly. As far as the rubble block, I believe that runs the limits of the project, and basically it's flush with the pavement. It's about a half-inch as far as the differences in grade. But Steve, maybe as far as those islands at Hillside, are they
3 feet wide at my street, however.
It goes out a little bit.
Is that raised at Hillside?
No, it's not raised anywhere, that rubble block pavement throughout the entire length of the project. At Hillside Street, it does widen out a little bit. It might be about 3 feet there, a little wider there than anywhere else. But it is intended to be traversable, where you can go over it every day.
It would be, in winter weather, it would be not traversable, is that correct?
No, it would be plowed.
They're not going to plow that.
I hope so.
Okay.
Yes.
My name is Alexander Whiteside. I'm a member of the Planning Board. I speak for myself as a member of the Planning Board. The Planning Board itself is going to meet on Thursday, and if it adopts a position, it will send it to you. I have a great deal of concern about this 2-lane road from 128 to the traffic light at Chickatawbut Road becoming a 64-foot wide superhighway, which is going to take traffic 2 miles and dump it into Milton's residential street. I don't think that this is good planning. I think that you should seriously consider continuing the 2 lanes that you have at that traffic light, taking them down approximately to where the dump access road is, and then think about creating stacking lanes to distribute the traffic where it's going. But certainly, putting 2 miles of 4-lane road out in the middle of where you're doing the only comparable situation that I can think of is Route 2 in Arlington, where the road is 4 lanes in Lincoln, becomes 8 lanes in Arlington, and goes down to 2 lanes when it gets to Cambridge. There's no real purpose for this 4-lane highway, and I think that by improving the road, all you're going to do is cause greater speed and more accidents.
Thank you. I'd just like to point out there is a difference. The 1 lane in each direction section, there's really very little access. There's very few decisions that a motorist makes in that area. Once you get past Chickatawbut, there's driveways, there's side streets, there's a lot of decisions that the motorist has to make. And there's just a difference between those 2 sections of roadway. And the volumes warrant 2 lanes in each direction. Are there any other locally elected officials? Okay, I'd now like to open this up to the public. I assume that there's a lot of people who'd like to speak. What I'd like to do is maybe we could start queuing up in front of this microphone here and just come up one by one and make your comments.
Good evening. My name is Ed Wheeler. I live at 1253 Randolph Avenue in Milton, in the area where you're doing. First, I applaud Mr. Whiteside. I think he's absolutely correct. What I have seen from your plans does not show anything to slow down speed, but only to take more excessive chances. Up in that area where we live, I live at 1253, we have houses at this location currently that have between 20 and 30 feet of lawn in front of them, including what the sidewalk is. And when we built some of these houses, they were only required to have 20 feet by the town of Milton. Now, if you take back 10 feet or so from in front of those houses, you're going to end up with property in front of the houses that are about 15 to 20 feet at tops. The speed limit is currently 45 miles an hour. I have 3 grandchildren that live next door to me. If they come out and they have a 15-foot area that they can come out of, a car going 45 miles an hour has a flat tire or a tire blows out, those children aren't going to stand a chance. We have bat buses that go down that avenue at 60 and 65 miles an hour, and the proposal that you're making is not going to slow them down. It appears to me that we're more concerned about the traffic for the people who are driving that road who live outside of the town of Milton than we are for the people who live right here in the town of Milton paying taxes. As far as I'm concerned, I know you gentlemen are doing a job, and it's an easy pill for you to swallow. You don't live there. But I ask for you to take serious consideration about the young folks and the people who live in that area that are going to now be restricted, that aren't going to be able to come outside of those houses. I am sure that if we gave Chief Murren the support, the equipment, and the manpower, he could police that street and make it a safe public street for the people who live here in the town of Milton. Thank you.
Yes? First a question. My name is David Arnold. I live at 188 Hillside Street. What is the proposed speed limit?
Well, the design speed is 50 miles an hour. The speed limit is determined after the project is completed.
The design speed is 50. It is
Right.
now...
The design speed is now approximately 40. What makes the difference between 40 and 50 is, you really can't see it from here, but on the back wall you see some... Excuse me? No, I'm saying the design speed. If you were to analyze the geometry of the existing facility, its design speed would be approximately 40 miles per hour, and that's, the control on that is the vertical geometry. And what I mean by that is the hill at Chickatawbit, and then there's one other hill at Hillside. The only difference in a 40-mile-per-hour design and a 50-mile-per-hour design is that the 40-mile-per-hour design would not do anything at those hills. It would retain the crests on the hills as they are.
Do you have any idea what 80% of the traffic does for speed?
The posted speed is supposed to be what 85% of the traffic is doing. When the last time the road was speed zoned, I'm not sure.
All right. I'm sure there are, everybody who lives on that road will tell you they go a lot faster than 45 miles an hour. And when you go to 50 miles an hour, you are essentially inviting people to go faster. I'm opposed to the project as is, and I'll be brief. What you do is when you send people down past Chickatawbit, you are essentially giving them a green flag for 2 miles to get as fast as they can down to Tedeschi's. And we are saving them 20, 30 seconds of driving time, further dividing both sides of Milton by the speedway. I'm concerned that there is one proposal back here that has 2 lanes with a 3rd turning lane, that there has been no study that I can understand or have seen that has looked into the possibility of whether this can handle the volume of traffic. We are essentially speeding traffic up when we all know the only way you make a road safer is to slow it down. I have one last comment. You gentlemen are nice. I met Steve McLaughlin once at his office. Couldn't be a nicer guy. It is very difficult to look at my street, which it's kind of fun to poke fun at us. We pay a lot of taxes. We keep a lot of open land there. It is very difficult to continue living there as the traffic increases, which I believe a street light and, as I understand it from your department, improved east-west connection across Milton with this proposal. 20, 30 years from now, it's all going to be gone. We will have moved out. It won't have worked. The next generation will look back on the photographs and say, what a wonderful neighborhood that was. What happened?
I'd just like to say that one of the first things we did look at was 1 lane in each direction and trying to accommodate a left turn lane in the middle, but there's too much traffic on the road, and unfortunately, there isn't a whole lot that we, as the State Highway Department, can do about how many people want to use Route 28.
How do we go from a 2-lane, pardon me, how do we go from a 2-lane from 128 up to Chickatawbit? And except for the, I acknowledge what you say about the driveway coming out. Yes, the driver has to make a few more decisions. But to go to this radical departure, when perhaps a turning lane could do it, you are essentially just, you're putting more water down the river here.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is John Simmons. I live at 1028 Randolph Avenue, corner of Randolph and Sassamon. Overall, we've been pretty lucky here for the last 5 years. We have had no children killed on Randolph Avenue. Our concern today, believe it or not, is that, number one, I can't get out of my driveway. I can't cross the street. The children can't cross the street. I can't get off the bus and cross the street to get to my house. What we're doing today is that we're making it much wider, we're making it much faster. How am I going to cross the street now? How are my children going to cross the street? How am I going to get off the bus? With this proposal you have today, is not satisfied to us at all. We can't do anything with this proposal across the board. I came here 5 years ago in 1988. We talked about widening the street, widening that activity. I adamantly opposed that activity across the board, and what's going to happen is that we're going to widen it. We're going to do something erratic, and what's going to happen? Someone's going to get killed because it's 55 miles an hour, it's 50 miles an hour, and it's 60 miles an hour. The ball's going to roll out of my driveway. The little boy's going to run after it, and what's going to happen? This takes one time. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Jeff Marr. I live at 11 Mark Lane, which is off of Hillside. I'm also a town meeting member from Precinct 9. And like others, we appreciate this opportunity to see what you have in mind and to share it with the community. But I'm afraid that from what I've seen here, it looks like we're more concerned about serving the commuters than we are the community. And I have a question in that where you do not see the brown spots in the middle of the road, how wide is the proposed rubble strip?
2 feet.
2 feet. Earlier you had indicated that prior to Chickatawbik, where the road is 2 lanes, once you pass those satellites, there's more opportunity to turn to driveways and streets. Well, how is a 2-foot turnoff going to assist you in getting into a driveway if you're coming from the opposite side of the road where you have to turn off? Most of the accidents that I've seen, and I have seen some, have been waiting to take that left and someone plowing into you, the fellow behind you pulls out, and then the person behind them is traveling 40, 50, 60 miles an hour, and then you see the back end. What we need here is a professionally designed turnoff area. We don't need to enhance the road for commuters from Braintree or Holbrook or Walpole cutting through Milton. I've lived in Milton my entire life. I've lived off of Hillside now going on 8 years. And this part of Milton, and I've got children 6 and 9 years old, and very soon they're going to be asking me to walk to church or to go down to the other end of Milton on their bicycles or walk with their friends. And I fear that day coming because of the speed that's tolerated on this road. And it's tolerated not because of any lack of effort from the police, but it's tolerated through lack of design. It does turn into, as Mr. Whiteside said, a superhighway. There's no reason for it. We're servicing people outside of our community, and I think that's where you should focus your attention too. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Joseph McKean. I live at 1200 Randolph Avenue. I have sent a letter, I hand-delivered a letter to your office in town, both to both people of their name was in the paper. In that letter, I had a proposal for a center strip to go down the road for a turning lane. 1 lane in, 1 lane out. I used a basic analogy that if you take a bottle of water or any type of fluid, uncap it, the water is going to run wild. And with your design coming to your road, new road coming to Chickatawbik, when you hit, coming to the Blue Hills, when you hit Chickatawbik, you're uncapping a bottle. And anybody who's come along and been held up by anybody in front of them coming down that lane goes wild when he hits that light. The other thing is, half the problem with the lights on Randolph Avenue are caused by the Chickatawbik Road itself. There is no view for a stranger to see the traffic light and stop in time, especially in the summertime when it's all the leaves are up there. You have less than 100 yards to, from the time you hit that corner to the time that you get to the traffic light. Now, a stranger does not know there's traffic lights there, and I would willing to bet half your accidents there are caused by people coming out of the side street, unbeknownst to the traffic light. The other proposal that I have, you have a computer-generated design here. You designed it so that you could get 80% of federal funds. Why don't you go back and try to make a design for people who live in the road and on the area using state funds, and have a speed limit like 30 miles an hour like you have in Route 28 going through Randolph? which is heavily populated. Because Randolph Avenue on the Milton side of the road is when you follow Randolph Avenue, Milton side of the road, there isn't a single street that you can go off without passing one of your Milton schools, including this place, Milton High School, the libraries, every main place of congregation, every park is serviced by Randolph Avenue. And your only actual hope for the people of Milton is to slow down the traffic on the road, not to give it a superhighway effect. If you had one lane going down, one lane coming up, if people commute from other towns, if they're not happy with if it caused a little delay, they'll find another route. One of the routes that you have made already, your expressways or your 138, some of your other exits or entrances into town. Right now, you've created a bomb, and it's getting worse. But I think basically the design is put in there for the state to collect back the 80% federal funds. Last week, you had a mandate in one of your questions on the ballot that the state funds all be used for roads. And I think there's enough people in the town of Milton buy enough gasoline that the town or the state can afford to spend the $2 million on those 2 miles of road to make it people-oriented, not traffic-oriented. Thank you.
I'd just like to respond briefly to a few things. As far as the hill at Chickatawbit, that is part of this plan to reduce that hill to increase the site distance.
That hill in Chickatawbit, excuse me.
Could you step up to the mic, please? The other thing I'd just like to note is that
That hill in Chickatawbit, I have 2 vehicles. I have an automobile and I also have a custom van. The difference between the seat in the automobile and the seat in the custom van is 3 feet from ground level. If I come down that road, come along down through the Blue Hills on Randolph Avenue, I see the light all the way in my van. I don't see it in my car for approximately 100 feet, 100 yards. By raising the light 3 feet, and by putting a warning light similar to what you have in Martin Street in Dorchester, as you come over the bridge, would warn people of that light up there. Raising the light 3 feet, which was brought up in 1988, and at that time when it was brought up, they said it wasn't within state standards to raise the light. But there's nothing in state standards that says you can't put another light on top of the one that reaches the standard. And that could eliminate possibly half of the taxpayers' cost of doing the top of the hill.
one other thing is there's an ongoing project right now where they're resurfacing the roadway right before you get to that intersection. Part of that contract will be the installation of an advance warning for the signals as a temporary measure until we can come in and improve the geometry. The situation you explained when you're in your van versus your car is exactly what we're trying to do, is make it so that people in their car have the same advantage that you have in your van. And it's more than just seeing the light. What's also important is that a motorist can not only see the light up above, but also see anything that may be on the ground, such as a vehicle or a pedestrian or an animal or anything. So that's where our criteria comes from, is seeing an object on the ground, along with being able to see the lights.
Well, a plan I submitted to your office, this design, from what I understand of your plan, has a 2-year lead, or lag time. Roughly 2 years, 1996, you're talking about the possibility of this thing getting underway. The plan I submitted to your office was, for the time being, if you patch the road, which you've neglected for the last 15 years, and tried, just with paint the center strip for a turning lane one way or the other, paint single lane one way or the other, you have a year or a year and a half of time to find out if that might not be a better solution than to go ahead and put something like that up there that's generated by a computer that's designed by some bureaucrat in Washington, just to get the money.
The other thing is, even if we were to use 100% state funds, that doesn't relieve us of our responsibilities to use the guidelines that all the state highway officials use.
Yeah, well, Route 28 on the opposite side of 128 is a 30-mile-an-hour zone. Now, there's no reason then you couldn't make it a 30-mile zone. I understand that the federal guidelines are 50. The state guidelines can be 30. We have legislatures that can,
Again, as I explained earlier, all we'd have to do to make the design speed less than 50 is not fix the problem at Chico Talbot and not fix the problem at the other intersection. And that just, we would like to solve the problem with the hill at Chico Talbot. That's the only thing that changes it to a 50-mile-per-hour design speed. And again, just because the design speed is 50 miles per hour does not necessarily mean the posted speed is 50 miles per hour. A thinking person using the road should not be going more than 50, not because of the restrictions on the road, but because there's driveways everywhere. It's crazy to go faster than 50. Now, there's only so much we can do about it.
I was at a meeting at the police station 2 weeks ago when the police chief admitted that the average car goes 60 miles an hour there and he can't stop them. Now, that's his own words. Now, you have state police who supposedly take care of state highway. Where are they? They come around when there's a detail maybe, but you don't see them on the road. But the town cannot keep the speed limit now. He admitted that the traffic travels at 60 miles an hour. And no matter what they do, they can't slow it down. And you're giving them a much faster road to go on, which to me is totally unacceptable. And I live right on the road, and I have to go in and out of my driveway. And also, if you look somewhere in your state, I believe it's under the registry, it's illegal for anybody to back onto a main or onto a state highway, which means that every highway, every driveway in that whole length of the road, the people have to back in. Otherwise, they can't drive out of their driveway, unless they are lucky enough to have enough room to make a U-turn on their property.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with that.
That's in the registry code, that it's illegal to back onto a state highway. And if you take some of those things into consideration, but I think the computer-generated road, by people who are not involved, it just doesn't work.
Thank you. Could you just wait 1 minute? Is Senator White here?
Yes. Good evening. For the record, Senator Paul White from the Suffolk and Norfolk District, which includes the town of Milton and surrounding communities. We seem to have more than a modest amount of interest in what you have come out to discuss tonight, and I would suggest to you that the assembled group here of citizens, all of whom live in the area, who are committed to this town and are very supportive of the town and committed to making the town work, they are not here out of any light consideration. They are here because they have lived with the existing conditions, and they are very, very concerned about the proposal that is the subject of discussion tonight. I would ask that you listen with great care and take note of the numbers assembled and of the assemblage of all of the elected officials, of the public safety officials of the town, and of the strong and, I think, sincere work of the Citizens Committee, which, if it has not, and I apologize if I missed the presentation, will be presented to you during the course of tonight's discussion and subsequent to this evening's public hearing. I think all of us who are interested and express the concerns of Milton appreciate very much your presence here tonight, and we ask you to remain open, we ask you to remain flexible, and we ask you conscientiously to consider the experiences, the legitimate anxieties, and I think the facts for those who live with Randolph Avenue with the existing conditions of Route 28. No one here would be against any type of discussion that will ultimately lead to improvement in public safety. But part of that discussion must be what the bottom line is. What is the outcome? The greatest concern, as I've heard from citizens who have told me about tonight's meeting and of their concerns as they have read about it in the newspaper, or their concerns as they have scrambled out of their homes to watch approaching police vehicles or EMT vehicles when an accident occurs, or some of whom who have personally experienced the anxiety and the fear of an accident or a near accident while turning onto or off of Randolph Avenue. They do not want any change which is going to result in an enhancement of the likelihood of speed. If anything, there has been a consistent attempt in communications with my office to reduce the speed. They would like to see a reduction in the use of this particular road, unfortunately, as a fast connection to and from various locations, not necessarily in the town of Milton. There are very serious changes that have occurred at or near Route 28. The substantial enhanced development in the hillside area, the greater use of some of the commercial facilities located on Route 28, the development of businesses south of Milton in the adjoining communities, and hopefully the enhanced use of recreation in and around the Blue Hills. This creates a very serious concern about the numbers of vehicles that use the road. Yes, it is imperative that public safety be improved and enhanced, but not at the cost or encouragement of speed and increased danger for those who live in this area. You have heard allusions to the number of public schools in the area, a large private school not far from here. You have heard, I think, references to the large number of youngsters that use the Blue Hills area and use Route 28 and its side roads to access those facilities. I would hope that tonight is just an opening opportunity for these strong, deep-seated, and I think sincere concerns. This isn't just a gathering of a few folks who have nothing better to do. This is a large group of folks coming out on a Monday night, on a work night, very grateful that you're here, but asking you to listen because they want an opportunity through their elected officials, both at the state level and at the town level, to impact in a positive way the proposal that you bring before us. And they are very concerned that perhaps engineering concerns may not understand the implications of living with this road. Engineering concerns may not understand or take into account the reality, the traffic count, the accident count, and yes, the real-life stories that produce this kind of a crowd. We ask that this be just the beginning of the dialogue, that the Citizens Committee's recommendations, and that a real sit-down and an opportunity for these neighbors and their elected officials to positively impact whatever is done. If that is not the case, we are only going to see a worse situation, an encouragement of speed, and I think an exacerbation of very serious problems. We want to solve those problems, but we want to solve them collectively, sensibly, with an understanding of the history of this road. Thank you.
One thing I would like to say, I understand that there is a citizens group that has prepared some information. What I'd like to do is if we could concentrate on this first, get all your comments on what we have, then when those are exhausted, let's move on to the next one. I'm very interested in seeing it, but I just want to get all this on record first. Yes.
My name is Dave Hodgson. I'm Executive Director of Friends of the Blue Hills. Our organization is very concerned about the 2-mile stretch between 128 and Chickatawbut Road, which is the Blue Hills Reservation. And taking public parkland and widening Route 28, we're basically opposed to that. Again, we're concerned, as many of the citizens are here, that the impact of cutting the hill down at Chickatawbut Road will increase the speed, and a good example of that is what happened when they cut the hill down in front of Trailside Museum on 138. The traffic now goes at 65 or faster along 138 in that stretch where they cut the hill down. What you should be doing is putting means and methods up there to slow the traffic down, not speed up the traffic in that area. Furthermore, we're concerned about the Blue Hill Reservation and the commuter traffic that uses the shortcut between the Southeast Expressway, Granite Willard Street, Chickatawbut Road, to Route 28, to 138, to the Houghton's Pond Bridge, Ponkapog Bridge, and back and forth, Unquity Road, that this is an open system with too much traffic. You cannot ride safely on a bicycle along Chickatawbut Road, let alone cross at the stoplights. You cannot ride safely along Hillside Street, Chickatawbut Road extension down. You can't ride along Unquity Road or any of these roads anymore because the traffic is too fast and it's too much of a shortcut. What we need to do is look at ways that we can preserve the Blue Hill Reservation, which is the biggest jewel in the necklace of the Emerald Necklace, and protect that resource, not increase the traffic speeds in the shortcuts, because when Southeast Expressway, 128, 28, 138 become parking lots, people look for alternatives to get from where they want to go, both local people and outside people. And our concern is that we need to look at positive uses of the reservation, not as a shortcut commuter route. One thing we suggested several years ago when this proposal first was brought forth, that they consider putting a bridge over 28 with no access ramps to it from 28. That would get rid of probably 50% of the commuter traffic that flies through if they didn't have access. Problem is the system is too big and too much traffic is on it. We suggested to the MDC when they put the guide rails along Chickatawbut Road by the reservoir that they put a sidewalk in there, because if anybody's been up that way and tries to walk through that area or ride a horse through that area or a bicycle and 2 cars are coming, one in one direction and one in the other direction, you'll get pinned against the guide rails. And again, too much traffic. We need to look at one-way road systems, not two-way road systems where we can squeeze as many cars in as possible. We need to cut down the number of vehicles using the reservation roads as a shortcut to your big highways. And again, I stress that. There's too much traffic. Is the MDC represented here tonight? What's their position? Have they taken a position? Do they want to see it widen?
Is there anyone here from the MDC?
What's been the communication with the MDC? Has there been any communication?
Yes, I have met with the MDC, and I did give them our proposal on what we're doing, and they are looking at it as we speak. So we're in dialogue with them.
Well, but I think these are concerns that we all have and we're all concerned about, because the traffic and the shortcuts are becoming highways, and the roads are getting wider and wider. The widening of Route 28 between 128 this past year and expanding those shoulders a little bit is a little bit more encroachment on the reservation, and we see that as a big concern. We have endangered species in the reservation which are threatened by the widening of this road, and I think that should be stressed as well. There are a lot of other things that need to be looked at, just in the fact is traffic needs to go from point A to point B. We have to look at the other impacts. So my preference is going to be, if you're going to start fiddling with 28, that you also look at the alternatives. One would be a bridge over Route 28 to get rid of that commuter traffic. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Peter Gachicha. I live at 174 Hillside Street. I'd just like to say that I believe this plan meets the objectives of the state and the state only. That what this plan has a tendency to do is to increase the throughput or the amount of cars that can be processed down this road in a more efficient way. However, I don't believe it's balanced with the needs of the residents of this town. In terms of safety, you've attempted to implement some type of safety for turning lights. However, with the increased speeds that's going to be allowed on this road, I feel any gains that we get on that road in terms of safeties will be nullified by the increased speeds. So what I'd like to propose is continue to work on the design to improve the throughput, continue to enhance and talk about improving the safety features that you have here, but do it with one other criteria in mind, to do it by reducing the speed on the road. Years ago, the state implemented a 55-mile-an-hour speed limit on a lot of the major highways, and for years they've always touted how a reduction in speed has saved lives. What you're proposing here goes contrary to a lot of those studies in terms how reducing speed also save lives. So again, I would just ask, continue with improving the quality of the roads, continue with the safety features that you've built into it, but please do it also with the criteria of reducing the speed on the road, not increasing it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Frank Smith from Harborview Road. Our only access to the world is down Randolph Avenue. The road there, and a lot of money has been spent in the last 6 months, putting a 2-lane new surface with things on each side to keep the water from running off and making a mess of the Blue Hills. But it's a 2-lane road, and it's doubtful if it will ever be changed. The road beyond it for a 2-mile stretch is proposed to be a 4-lane road. When I drive down to that section from 128 to Chickatawba today at the rush hour, you couldn't get any more cars on that road. It's maximum traffic for a 2-lane road. This section we have, and I agree with the senator and I agree with the previous speakers, we should make this a 2-lane road from Chickatawba to St. Elizabeth's Church and not try to expand an area where they can go faster. When they talked about the 55-mile-an-hour speed limit, that means you go 65 anywhere in Massachusetts. 55 is not a speed limit in this state. 65 is when you're in trouble. So making a speed limit for 50 means you'll go 60. We should not do it. Maybe we should put a rumble strip down the middle, 2 lanes, and the rumble strip might stop at Hillside briefly so people could make a turn there, but for the people coming out of their garages or driveways, they could turn over a rumble strip with no problem. But a rumble strip would make it difficult for people to go only in the lanes that are provided, 1 lane in each direction, and then maybe put rumble strips like they do on Chickatawba. Going down Chickatawba to the South Shore Plaza, as you approach the end, there's a rumble strip every 200 yards, 300 yards, 400 yards. Maybe we should have a rumble strip every quarter of a mile on this stretch of road just to slow people down, even when it's only 2 lanes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Diane DiTullio Agostino. I am an elected town meeting member from Precinct 8, and I've spoken with both of you in 1988 and more recently. I'd first of all like to thank Senator Paul White, because recently we've heard a lot about getting our politicians more involved in helping us with traffic highway safety issues. because so often we hear that the issue is moving the traffic versus the speed, which is why this room is packed tonight. And it's great to see so many people who don't even have to contend with this some 12 times a day, as my neighborhood does, because we can't get milk, we can't go anywhere without getting onto that road, and we're primarily an elderly population, except for a few of us. So that I hear constantly that, Diane, I can only go out at certain times of the day. I can't leave my house unless it's a little window of opportunity for those elderly to get out on that road. So I thank the senator, and I want to remind you that in your letter in 1988, when you first said you were going to look at this job, you listed safety. And once again, here it is, 1994, you listed safety before traffic movement. And I do believe that you can help us. And I know that you feel you can help us because you have come a long way. The only problem was in 1988, you kind of left us stranded when we complained. And granted, we did have an 11-page petition, and some of those residents have since, in these 8 years, either become quadriplegics or died on that road. And those were our neighbors. So not only do I know you can help us, but I know you want to help us because you've looked at those statistics. You may not have been there for the accidents, but you've seen the stats, as you mentioned yourself. So we're asking you to take a few steps forward. But before you do, just remember, what we said in '88 is the same thing we're saying tonight. You've heard everyone stand here and talk about the speed. It's the exact same thing you heard in '88. You heard everyone talk about crossing over. We still have those problems. We still, if we're sitting there too long, we either have to cut across the traffic to make sure we don't get rear-ended, or we have to just hold our breath as the impact happens. Pedestrian safety is non-existent. And it's not all your job. Traffic enforcement is important, and I invite everyone in this room to complain about the traffic enforcement because they don't belong out there on Route 28 only when we have public hearings. Years ago, say 6 years ago, they were habitually there. You'd see them periodically, and no one would ever know when they were going to be there. And I agree with you when you say that traffic enforcement is part of the formula to making Route 28 safer. And we will take our work elsewhere on that endeavor. Traffic lights. There are so many more children in the area. The houses on my side of the street were built in the 60s. Since you last were here, many more houses have built on the other side of the street. We've asked repeatedly, what makes an area a residential zone? Now, I was glad to see tonight you said that the posted speed would come later. I don't understand what that means. Maybe you could explain that. But I do want to just state that it was not a residential area when the speed limit of 45 miles per hour was set. And that's a question that no matter how many meetings I've gone to, I haven't heard the answer. When you go from Randolph to Chickatawbit, it's 50 miles an hour. And we've been told at meetings that's because there's no residents there. Well, 5 miles per hour doesn't cut it, considering all the residents and children that are there. We need some lights, and I would propose to you that at the Reed Street landfill area, where there have been enough accidents also, I would propose to you that with the increased traffic we're having lately, maybe we could meet some warrants there, because I don't think the number of deaths should have to be a requirement for the number of warrants to be met. And I do feel, I have pictures. For the last 2 months, I've gone out with my camera. People will say, well, Diane, we never hear these things, or we only get 1 or 2 complaints. Well, I think the pictures can speak for themselves when an 18-wheeler makes a U-turn at Walston Golf Course, blocking off the whole road. And you can well imagine when the cars come flying down what it looks like, or at the landfill. But I ask you to help us. I ask you to leave here and work with the committee, and I also ask you that tomorrow we won't read in the paper, residents oppose DPW plans to widen Randolph Ave in the year 2000. Thank you.
Thank you. Just in regards to the posted speed, typically when a roadway is reconstructed, after it's constructed and vehicles are using it, we speed zone the road, which means we monitor how fast people are driving on the road. The posted speed would be the speed that the 85th percentile on the road is traveling, meaning that 15% of the people are exceeding the speed limit. However, in this case, obviously speed seems to be the key issue here, and I would say that we would entertain talking with the community and coming up with what's a reasonable posted speed. But the key thing in any posted speed is it has to be enforced. If you say now the posted speed's 40 and they're going 60, and I don't know how fast they're going right now, then what do you make it 30, and how fast do people go then? When it's an enforcement thing. And again, I'm sure with a project like this, with the level of interest that we see here and what the speed is, that we wouldn't be this unyielding bureaucracy that says this shall be the speed. I'm more than willing to talk about it and come up with what's a reasonable speed, but it's a two-way thing that we have to work with the community with what's a good posted speed, because everybody that's sitting here is going to be driving that road, and if it's posted at 30 and you're going 40, you may be getting a ticket, and that's all. Yes.
My name is John Boyle. I live at 2 Stonehill Lane. This road is the only road from our kids up at the hillside area to get to, the only way that our kids up the hillside street area can get to the St. Elizabeth Church, to Cunningham Park, to the high school, to Tedeschi's, the only store around. There's no other way. What does this plan do with respect to bicycles or pedestrians? I don't see any...
What we're proposing is sidewalks from the beginning of the project to the end of the project on both sides of the street. But what I'd like to say is that's what we're proposing now here at this public hearing. It's incumbent on the community to agree that that's what they're willing to have.
Why not a bicycle path going the whole way? You can't ride a bike down that street unless you have a death wish.
Right now, we're having 2-foot shoulders, meaning the distance from the edge of road to the curb is 2 feet. If there was interest and people wanted a bikeway, we would increase that width and allow for bicycles. But that means wider
It seems to
pavement.
me, though, that you've been hearing opposition for 5 years. Why don't you rethink the project from the ground up and go back to the 2-lane? Have you planned for a 2-lane? You say 2 lanes is impossible. I don't see why it's impossible. You lower the speed to 35 or even 30, and hell with the commuters, and just do that. I mean, have a bicycle path and trees, and it'd be a beautiful area, and why can't we have that? Why does it have to be like Saugus or Route 1 and Peabody? And that's what it'll be in 5 years, and then we'll have all the people want to build shopping centers and all that garbage, and then Milton will be gone.
One of the first things that Steve and I... We talk about the project being around since 1988. Actually, Steve and I, our involvement started in 1993, and that was the first thing that we looked at was, let's try and make it so it's 1 lane in each direction with the middle turning lane instead of 2 in each direction. But we could not get the numbers to work as far as the volume out there.
Yeah, but see, that's bootstrapping, because this is like a vacuum. You build it bigger and they will come. You build a bigger highway and more cars will come. You build it smaller and it'll be a smaller road. I mean, every road... I'm not sure what the state's agenda is here. Why are you pushing this down our throats? Why not go back to the drawing board? It seems like the local people whose interests you purport to be interested in knowing about are all against this. I haven't heard one person say they like it. So where is the impetus for this?
Well, that's what we're here for, to talk about it and to receive your comments.
My name's Charles Seymour. I live on Harlan Street, and I'm the president of the Hillside Neighborhood Association. I don't really speak officially for that association except by logic tonight. People before me have spoken eloquently and very clearly about the dangers of speed. What I wanted to do is just rehash their observations in an arithmetic way. We hear from the residents of Randolph Avenue that speed is, even now, is a tremendous difficulty. Building and improving the road will be an invitation to more speed as well as increasing the safety. So we're inviting more speed. We're also, by a wider road, we are inviting more cars to come in. And this is the volume, part of the arithmetic equation that concerns me and my neighborhood. With the increase in volume in cars, then there will be an increase in the number of cars that are turning off on the shortcut through our neighborhood. And we've heard eloquently from the Randolph Street residents, I'll speak now for the Hillside Harlan Street residents, that if we get much more traffic on our street, we're going to be in very sad shape. One alternative might be to, especially we will have more if there's a traffic light at Hillside Street and Randolph Avenue. One alternative I don't like, but it is there, and that would be to open up all the other side streets that adjoin onto Randolph Avenue, to take away the one-way signs during certain times of day, to fulfill the traffic department's alleged goal to spread out traffic use in the neighborhood. This is one of the goals of a traffic engineer. This would mean asking our fellow neighborhoods to remove the convenient devices that they protected their own neighborhoods from. Is unpleasant to us. I suggest instead that we follow exactly what has been said tonight, and that is get at the root source of the problem, which is the speed, which would be an invitation to more traffic, and thereby cut down on the volume itself. We have some elegant plans that perhaps the working committee will show, perhaps not, but other people have mentioned. Foremost among them is going retrograde, to use 2 lanes of traffic with one turning lane in the middle instead of 5 lanes or 4 lanes with a barrier. Basically, as far as we are concerned, I think anything that will cut down on speed will also cut down on volume, which will increase safety in our neighborhood, and we're all for it, including any radical designs right back at the beginning, designing in collaboration with the highway department from the start. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, my name is Paul Higgins. I live at 1265 Randolph Avenue. I've lived in this area for 38 years. Nobody has mentioned tonight about the proposed taking of land to expand the road at that area. There's approximately 7 houses on the right-hand side when you're heading south that would be impacted by this, and at least one, the corner house at the corner of Randolph Avenue. Now, this is supposed to include a 5-foot sidewalk. What is the purpose of the 5-foot sidewalk? There isn't that much foot traffic in the area in the first place. There's no sidewalk on the other side of the street at all. Now, they're supposed to take some footage from the front of my house. Now, I haven't heard anything about the compensation for it. I think it will ruin the valuation of not only my house, but the other 6 or 7 houses that are on that side of the street, and including the one on the far side. Is this group prepared to just buy this property? Because I know you'll ruin the value of my land. You leave me about 5 feet from my front door to the sidewalk. And it's not enough. I have 7 grandchildren that are visiting me all the time. I think it stinks. It's wrong. You're proposing to widen the street to take care of traffic from outside of the town. Worry about the people in the town. We've been visited, we've lived there. Most of these people that have lived there for over 25 years. And you're going to take their property without any by your leave or anything else. We oppose it. Everybody that has spoken tonight opposes it, myself included. Thank you.
Thank you.
I live on Reedsdale Road, and all of the roads that run off of Emma Baraducci, Reedsdale Road, and all of the roads that run off of Randolph Avenue are suffering from the heavy traffic and the speeding traffic. Twice in 3 weeks recently, we've had damage to our property with cars running onto our lawn. If someone had been there, they would have been dead. People are just traveling through the town of Milton. I would say maybe more than 50% of the traffic doesn't belong in Milton. They're just using it as a shortcut. I don't want to see Randolph improve to attract more traffic and to increase the speed. It's already dangerous now. I don't want to see it get worse.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Jim McSherry, and I live on Haddon Ave. I'm in Precinct 8. This is the first time I've ever attended anything like this, and the biggest thing that I see with making this work a little bit better, or a lot better, I hope, would be to change the driving habits and, more importantly, the expectations that the commuters have when they come over Chickatobit into Randolph Ave and down in through Milton. I know when I'm coming over Chickatobit myself to come home to Nahan Ave, it's one lane through the Blue Hills, and it's very nice. And one of the things I like about Milton is you can drive through the Blue Hills, and it's very nice and scenic, and you're proud to live there, and you're proud to have people pass by your community. The concern then is at that traffic light, a lot of people move into the right, which is essentially a breakdown lane, maybe to go up Chickatobit, but what really happens is it's a fight for getting down Randolph Ave as quick as you can. And so it becomes like this speed race from the light at Chickatobit Road, and now you're going downhill before you go up towards Hillside. It seems to me that the primary issue is safety. We have to change the expectations, most importantly, of the drivers and all the commuters that use that road. If we change that, you said one of the problems was that you couldn't make it work if it was one-on-one. And I think that's because of expectations that the drivers have, that when they get on this road, you go for it. I mean, it's 2 lanes and you're moving along. One of the other concerns we have as a family with 2 children is when we're driving if we're coming from the north on 28, going towards our house, and we try to take a left, we're always nervous about someone coming up behind us really quickly. And I think if it was 1 lane with turnoffs, it would be so much safer. And the expectation would not be that it's a free-for-all highway and that you can just go as fast as you want. And let's face it, I mean, everybody's right about 45 not being adhered to. It's much faster than that. So I think if the expectations were such that it's more of a scenic roadway with the bike path, with single lanes, with safe turnoffs, with adequate lights, maybe 2, 3 more lights through the roadway, because we want to reduce the speed, then I think it would be better for everyone, people who live in the town and from people outside the town, who I think we're all proud of to show our town when people come through. And I think we'll look a lot better. I think it'll be a lot safer. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Robert Masing. I'm a town meeting member for Precinct 8. I live on Quarry Lane, which is just off of Randolph Ave. And I'm a little confused. I always thought that the Commonwealth worked for the people. I don't know why you made all these plans. You should have had this meeting beforehand, found out our interest, and then based on that, started drawing up these plans. Instead of showing us... The Commonwealth is supposed to work for the people, okay? You're not supposed to come and make these plans and show us what you're going to do. You're supposed to show what we want you to do. You work for us. I work for the town of Milton, and I can tell you quite frankly, I'm a firefighter. I respond to many accidents up there. I travel sometimes 60 miles an hour to an accident up on Chickatobit Road. I get passed. You know, we're talking about a 40-foot ladder truck with lights all over the place, and they're passing me, and I'm going 60. Okay? If we want to address, this is a state highway, send the state police in. Let them monitor it somewhat. You know?
I'd just like to say that this is our second public hearing, and we did attempt to react at least as best we could to the comments we received before. And we do have to come here with something. I explained earlier that these aren't the final plans. These are preliminary drawings, and that's why we're here, is to listen to you and to hear your comments and to do what we can. We can't show up here with an empty plan and say, okay, people, design the road for us. We have to have a starting point. And we had a starting point 5 years ago, and now we're progressing.
Bunny Thomas, 1237 Randolph Ave, the bottom of the quarter-mile strip. From the lights, it's about a quarter mile down from the house. And basically, it's a drag strip. Lights being the start of it. The improvements that you've made here, we're totally against as a Thomas family. Living on Randolph Ave for 44 years myself. Right now, you're going to take another 4 feet of the property. Right now, my bedroom, my bed sits 15 feet off of Randolph Ave. You're proposing to put it 12 feet or less. This spring, I installed the Massport windows, triple pane windows, to block out the noise of the trailer trucks and the other noise traveling on Randolph Ave. You used to get up at 6:30 Now I get up at 5:30 with no choice. Okay, increased volume has done that, putting more people in there on the streets, and just the road can't handle it. And now you want to make it so they handle more volume. In a residential, I'm totally against it. Taking people's property that doesn't have any property already in front. Like someone said, Route 2 in Arlington is a good example, down through that area. You're making it a major thoroughfare through a residential area. And we are considered residential. So I figure you should back it off to a 3-lane, which is acceptable to ourselves. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Natalie Albers. I live on Canton Avenue in Precinct 3. I'm a town meeting member, but I've heard allusions tonight to trees and planting, but this is a serious proposal. There is a lot of sophisticated work done today to reduce traffic by trees, plants, euonymus that turns bright red in the fall that automatically slows down traffic. There are graduates from UMass, Thomas Nurseries, I'm sure, has expertise on these. I think some work should be done to slow traffic down by planting clever, responsible planting. There are a lot of graduates of UMass, Aggie, well, they don't call it that anymore, but they used to, who know a lot about highway planting, put a strip down the center of trees and bushes along the side, rather than widening. I would just like to see, have you done any investigation on that idea?
We do have a landscape architect, or actually a landscape architect section within the department, and they will be reviewing our plans after what we're leading up to is what's called the 25% design stage. When we do get to that point, he would be brought in to look at our
But
design.
I mean, dramatic planting for dramatic slowing of speed. It can be done. It's been done in other parts of the country, and I just would appreciate your thinking about that.
Thank you.
Hi, my name's Polly Pillsbury. I live on Hillside Street. And I have an article here called Adding Up to No Place, which was from the Historic Preservation News. And I think it just takes a look at the big picture. We're talking about our immediate problems, but I think we need to just think about this. And I can't say it in better words in this article, so I'd just like to read a little bit of it. It's by Richard Moe. He starts out by saying, the sudden cataclysmic destruction of cities is a rare occurrence. Cities usually are destroyed bit by bit, nicked to death, if you will, by the urban planning equivalent of 1 million paper cuts. It begins when a traffic engineer notices that tie-ups are starting to occur on a particular street, so the street is widened. New turn lanes are installed at busy intersections. A bit later, one-way signs go up and traffic lights are synchronized in a further effort to speed the flow. When the flow does speed up, more cars appear to take advantage of the improvement. When congestion starts to occur again, and it always does, the roads grow wider and wider. Freeways muscle in, more buildings and trees are bulldozed, more asphalt is poured for more parking lots, more neighborhoods are scarred, more main streets destroyed. And he goes on. Another quote is, the demand for wider streets and more parking lots has carved big chunks out of thousands of historic towns and neighborhoods. And we've learned that we can't revitalize our historic inner cities without doing something to control the auto-generated sprawl that pushes chaotic development farther and farther out from the center. Preservation is in the business of saving communities and the values they embody, and we find ourselves battling policies that seem bent on destroying both. And the last, another part is, additionally, most states have adopted road design standards that systematically destroy the pedestrian-friendly layout of small-town main streets, big city downtowns, and neighborhoods. They frequently prohibit engineers from designing roads for slow speeds, even in quiet residential areas. By mandating excessively wide streets and roads, state highway agencies contribute to the sprawl that virtually guarantees continued auto dependence. And last but not least, Fourth, Congress should direct the Department of Transportation to develop new road design standards for urban, historic, and scenic areas. Standards now in use are systematically destroying small towns and urban areas alike and are eroding the scenic character of historic parkways and byways. Changing old habits won't be easy. It took centuries of throwaway mentality to bring us to this point. Before we go any further, we owe it to ourselves and our children to decide whether we really like living in a society in which, to paraphrase Joan Didion, the only thing constant is the rate at which it disappears. Do we really like the kind of cities our transportation policy has created? I don't think so. If we liked them, we wouldn't be on the brink of abandoning them. So perhaps what's most needed is a fundamental change in America's willingness to demand the kind of communities it wants rather than merely accepting the kind of communities it gets. That isn't an impossible dream. It can come true, starting now, perhaps even starting here. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Joe McKettrick, and I'm a member of the Milton Board of Selectmen. And we have a few concerns that we'd like to put on the record. And first of all, we'd like to ask your indulgence so that the Board of Selectmen might put these plans to the Milton Traffic Commission and get a studied response from our Traffic Commission. And we may not be able to meet the deadline for written materials, but we would appreciate an opportunity to examine this proposal at length and then get back to you with the input from our residents and also from our professional traffic engineer. I was at the 1988 hearing as a selectman when we were looking at the same stretch of road, and frankly, the message that we're hearing from the community and the message that we'd like to convey to you has not changed. I think that what the neighbors are saying is they understand Mass Highway to be in the business of making roads wider, increasing capacity, making traffic move more quickly. And I think what they're asking, what I'm asking, is that you rethink this problem. That is not the approach that we would like to see. We would like to see, actually, that you seriously consider slowing the traffic and decreasing capacity by design in a responsible fashion. We feel that the future of the neighborhood, the quality of the town, really depends upon what the state does with this particular stretch of road. Several speakers have pointed out that, again and again, planners wind up in a vicious circle. There's an effort to plan for increased traffic, in this case, commuter traffic, leading to broadening the road, which simply draws in more traffic. And inevitably, the situation is you can't handle the volume anyway, but in your efforts to do so, you will have degraded the surrounding community. And we're pleading with you to please not take us down that particular approach and to try to take into account the nature of the road and the nature of the community. If you increase the volume on this stretch of road, the obvious question is, where is it going to go next? If it follows Route 28, we're simply going to be taking more traffic past St. Elizabeth's, past Milton High School, past St. Mary's School, the church area, and the residential neighborhood in between, finally putting it into the Mattapan Square area at Blue Hills Parkway. That is going to increase the risk to our children going to school, and it's going to increase the risk on our streets. So we're asking you to make a concerted effort to keep the commuter traffic on the main arteries and to regard this road as a secondary method of crossing Milton. We don't want it to become a primary commuter route. Otherwise, we're just going to be facing a losing battle. So we ask you to please look at the big picture here. Some suggestions that we've already received from the group that the Board of Selectmen appointed to look at the problem, and their recommendations will be given to you in writing, would be to pay considerable attention to the matter of curbing and access into the road from business establishments along the highway. We suspect that one problem is that many of these restaurants and places of business should actually have restricted entrances and exits to make the movements on the road more predictable. Also, if you're going to be talking about increasing traffic lights, some thought should be given to synchronization that is designed to slow traffic. The commuters that use the road are in a numbers game. They're in a time game. If they discover that it takes longer or it takes an unacceptable amount of time for them to go up Route 28 to get into Boston, they will choose another route, rather than the philosophy of making it easier for them to use the road and thus encourage their coming into the town. So we ask you to rethink the problem. We would like to see some safety at intersections, which you seem to be working at, but we really don't want to see the road widened in the fashion that you're suggesting. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Just a few words. My name is Frank Bagg. I live at 43 Forest Street. I've lived there for approximately 40 years. I happen to be an architect, so I'm familiar with planning. Just a couple of things. In general, and I've looked over the plans tonight, in general, I'm opposed to what's proposed here tonight. One of the major things I think is this really is overlooked is that in the 40 years that I've lived in this area, the use of Randolph Avenue has changed significantly. When I first moved here, there were a relatively small number of houses from Chickatawbut, towards St. Elizabeth Church. In the 40 years, a substantial amount of housing has been built on both sides of the street, in many cases with access directly to the street. And I think in terms of the planning of this, that doesn't take into account the change that has taken place in Randolph Avenue, and it is now a residential street, not a through highway. The only other thing is that of all the things that some's been talked about in my use of Randolph Avenue for many years, I think in my opinion, one of the most significant improvements would be to put an adequate flashing light coming towards Chickatawbut Road from Randolph Avenue, such as they have in other parts of the state, which gives an adequate warning before you start up that hill with a flashing light warning that there's a traffic light ahead. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, my name is Henry Thomas. I live at 1257 Randolph Avenue, and I'm definitely opposed to that. I grew up on that road. I've lived all my life on there. The speed has increased tremendously. Before, in the old days, you were able to back out of the driveway or drive out of the driveway without hesitation. Now it takes about 5 to 6 minutes to get out at any time. You ask yourself, does people actually work today or what? It's constant traffic on that road. And noise, the rumple strip, definitely not. Because I live there, I can't even sleep in even the back bedroom. I'd invite you people, I'll put up a mobile home in my front lawn, let you people stay there for a month, and then you tell me if you like that noise. Even though I got 12 feet of lawn only in the front, but I'll put it up and I'll put you people up for a month on that. The noise is too much, the traffic is too much, somebody's gonna get killed walking across that street. My father almost got hit this summer crossing the street because people defy you. They're going 60, 70. I've seen them come off that light from Chickatawbut down, head north, 3 abreast. They cross that double line. And I've called the Milton police about the speed. They say, no, this is a state highway. Call a state department. I call the state police. They pass the buck. We don't have enough cruisers to patrol 128, never mind a little major road like Route 28. I don't like to see it large. 1 lane, either way. If you want to take advice, go up to North Conway, ride Route 16, that's a state highway. That's 1 lane either way with turning lanes marked out very clearly, and the traffic runs 55, 60, and that's in the sticks.
Thank you.
My name is Steve Taludis, 120 Hilltop Street, Milton. I just like to, most of these people that have spoken today I've kind of agreed with. I believe that we have to slow down Randolph Avenue. It's just much too fast. I've lived in the area for over 40 years, and the traffic is just getting higher and faster. And The only thing is, you have to be, I'd just like to caution you people on the placement of traffic lights, okay? Talk about placement of traffic lights on Hillside Street. I mean, what's going to end up happening is Mark Lane, Heather Road, going to end up being bypasses to beat the light or cut around through it. Same thing will happen on Eagle Road. They'll cut up Eagle Road, down Harborview, through Sassamon to Hampton, Ridgewood. And these are all highly populated areas with a lot of little kids, bus stops all over the place. You just can't, you know, if you have a light, believe me, somebody's going to try and find a way around it. You know, so if we reduce the design, maybe 2 lanes and a turning lane, wide sidewalks, we can do that without even taking any land, because we already have 4 lanes. We're going to cut it down to 3, and we'll take the extra land for sidewalks, a bike path, or whatever. And this is the way to go. We don't need more speed. We don't need more traffic. We got it. People use Route 28 because the expressway is jammed. Well, fix the expressway. Don't fix 28. 28's fine. It's a residential area. Let's keep it that way. Thank you.
Thank you.
This is an anonymous question. It's anonymous. Oh, I'm Diane DiTullio Agostino, but someone just left, and they'd like to ask, but they were an elderly person, and they didn't want to ask. Would it be conceivable, I know it's expedient to do the whole 2-mile stretch at once, but the question was asked, couldn't you do, say, from Wollaston to Tedeschi's first, and then do the other part later? You know, attempt to do, you know, come up with a design, work with the committee, work with the town, work with our senator, and maybe start at Wollaston, go to Tedeschi's. They said they've seen this happen in, I think it was Brockton. I know it seems like just 2 miles, but it is a complicated stretch, and I thought it was worth mentioning that request.
Thank you.
Excuse my voice. Graham Hawkins, 15 Hampton Ave. I just want to let you know that I agree with everyone in this building here. The road is too big, it's too fast. I grew up on the road. I was a young kid crossing the street. I was petrified then. I have 2 kids now. What do I tell them? Don't go across the street? Then you need to slow that road down. You have the tools to do it. You made it a major highway. Make it small. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name's Kathy Blythe. I live at 29 Northampton Avenue. And I came here very optimistically tonight. I expected to find that there would be an improved road, yes, but that you were going to tell me that you were going to slow the speed down. I expected a speed of about 40 miles an hour at least. And I'm frankly really disappointed with what I'm hearing tonight. And I look around here and I see and hear so many people saying the same thing. It's a very residential neighborhood. It's really changed in the last 10 years. And I really think you should factor in that it's not the road that it was in 1988. There are many more kids using that road. I think if you make it a faster highway, you're going to split the neighborhood even more. And I really recommend that you definitely consider limiting the speed limit to 40. I would also like to ask the town, I feel that there should be increased police enforcement. Periodically it happens down at Ridgewood. You do get the police cars there.
Excuse me, ma'am, could you back up to the other side of the microphone?
Yeah. Periodically you do see that there are police cars down at Ridgewood, but there needs to be more people on a continuing basis. And I think if the town can work together with enforcement, with the state, you will slow the speed down that way. But please, no 4-lane highway, 50-mile minimum. It's just not going to work. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming. My name is Maisie Colton. I live on the corner of Randolph Ave at 11 Hillside Street. I have an historical home in the town, a wall 225 years old, which is over there listed as a grass field. I have 4 children who cannot go to that side of the house now because the speed is so bad. And you're proposing a major intersection in front of my house. I do not think the numbers of 75 cars per 2 hours in the morning turning out of there is correct, because I've counted them. And it is not correct. I think you should go back and redo your study. There is no need for a major intersection right there. Thank you.
Yes.
Hi, my name is Ellen Anderson. I live at 395 Hillside Street. I'm very concerned about the number of people who have died on Route 28 in the past couple of years, and I think I agree with everything everybody has said here this evening. I wonder whether the state would consider doing some experimental work on the road before going any further with the planning, perhaps to try to paint in some wider shoulders, and in fact to take some steps right now to narrow the street, to put some warning signals, as Mr. Bagg has said, to the, I guess, the south of Chickatawbut Road, but perhaps to actually paint some wider shoulders on, narrow it down, lower the speed limit as you approach intersections, which I think you could certainly do, and see if, while we talk about this, and I think that I wouldn't have minded if you had come here tonight with a blank slate, because I do think that might be a good way to start. I think that there ought to be some sort of a design team with a continuing community input over the next year or so to try to achieve our goals, all of our goals, and I'm sure your goals that you share with us, a concern about the safety on the road. And I'm wondering if there isn't something we could do right away to maybe improve some of the sidewalks that are there, to make them safer, to begin to narrow the road right away, and to begin to paint some lines on that road to see how they work, to see if a smaller road would work. I just sat and looked at it a little bit today, and I noticed that during the height of rush hour, not one single car had to put not one brake light went on. Nobody had to even slow down on that stretch of road at the height of rush hour. I think the road is clearly over capacity, but I'm really concerned that while we argue and talk here, more people are going to die, and I'd like to see the state do something right away to narrow that road down.
Thank you. I'd like to take a minute just to say a few things. One, I think that was a really good comment and idea, is looking at ways to, on a temporary basis, try some things out. I'm not aware of any history that we have in the department of doing it. However, it seems to me to make sense, and that's a message that I will bring back to my office, that, you know, is there a way of experimenting with different configurations prior to construction? I'm certainly not going to stand here, well, I'm not going to make any guarantees that it'll happen. I can't, on my feet here, think through the mechanism of how it would all happen, but it does seem like a reasonable thing. I also want to say, I know there's nothing I can say that's going to change your minds on how we got to where we got, but just for the transcript, I want to make sure that it's noted that what we've done here with the design, it is not our intent to have more vehicles move faster on the road. That's not what we were trying to do. You may not feel that we were successful in that, but I just want to make sure that the transcript reflects that what we were attempting to do was make it so that people that do use the road can do so safely. We have tried to accommodate the community. That's why we're looking at these sidewalks. We feel the pedestrian issue is a serious concern. The signals at Hillside Ave, it's marginal whether they're warranted. However, we felt that it may have some effect regarding metering the traffic and encouraging traffic to stay within a posted speed limit. The signals can be timed that way. Again, I just want the record to reflect that that's not what we're all about. That isn't our job to make more people go faster. That's not what we're here for.
My name is Bob Dexter. I live on Ridgewood Road. One of the things that Diane Agostino mentioned was starting up at the St. Elizabeth's area, the Reedsdale Road, Pleasant Street area, and maybe working your way down with some reasonable solutions. And what the previous speaker said about trying out some things, there are a lot of configurations of entrances and exits onto that roadway, especially in the commercial areas where people have a wide range. The driveways are not restricted, and it makes it very difficult. People park right adjacent to the roadway at some of the locations, having to back onto the roadway, and those areas could be looked at initially. The area up at Pleasant Street, taking a left-hand turn onto Randolph Avenue, is difficult enough now. If traffic is increased on that roadway, it would be near impossible for people to, and that's mostly a resident-type road turn. It's not a commuter. Most of the commuters come from the opposite direction and go right down south on 28. But those are some of the areas where I think a lot of thought could be put into and tried before we get into some major reconstruction of the roadway. It took 5 years to get this far, and a few more years of trying out some reasonable solutions would certainly be suit the town very well.
Thank you.
Robert Mason, Precinct 8, town meeting member again. I kind of disagree with your comments. It's a matter of fact, when you make a road wider, you're looking to increase traffic flow. When you have a road narrower, it slows it down. Okay? Your intent may not be, but the last thing we want to hear at 7:50 in the morning over one of the radio stations is, Route 3 is tied up all the way back on 128. Jump onto 28 and cut across town. That's the last thing we want to hear. You making this road wider, you're going to increase the traffic flow. You know that, we know that. We're not stupid, you're not stupid. You make the road wider, you're going to attract more traffic. Plain and simple. You made the expressway big, wide for people to come in. You didn't make it one road. You didn't make it one lane. Okay? That's just a matter of facts, for the record.
I'd just like to point out that one thing that happens with narrow roads is drivers have a reduced level of comfort when they're driving the road. When they're not comfortable, they tend to drive erratically. When they drive erratically, it causes accidents. Again, I would encourage anybody to come up here afterwards and take a look at the extent to which we're widening it. This isn't a drastic widening, I can assure you. Please feel free to come up.
Hi, Ann Dexter, 180 Ridgewood Road. For immediate consideration, the lights up at St. Elizabeth's. If you have the Frame It store on your left, you're trying to take a left-hand turn onto Randolph Avenue. It would be very simple if we could have a delayed red or an arrow there, because the cars that are trying to get onto Randolph, you can't. I went up to the town hall about 8 months ago to see if the town could do something about changing the lights, and they thought it was under state control. So the town could not do anything with those lights up at that intersection. So everyone that tries to go down Randolph, it's impossible. You can get 2 cars out maybe. That's
I know
it.
there's a problem at that intersection.
So it could be either a delayed red so the people coming from the hospital end can't go across that intersection and let us get through that way, or an arrow without destroying everything else and taking parking spaces away or anything like that. Just a little delayed action there would be wonderful.
I know there's a need right there. We'll
Very
look into
big
it
need.
when we get back tomorrow and
Thank you.
see how long it'll take. We'll take a couple months to do that.
My name is Judith Ahrens. I live at 285 Hillside Street. I'd like to express my opposition, as others have, to your plans, and to add my opposition to a light at Hillside Street. And I would like to suggest that you consider, with imagination and creativity, how you could turn that stretch, that 2-mile stretch of road, into a lovely boulevard with trees and 35-mile-an-hour traffic, just as they have, just as they have on Adams Street from East Milton into Quincy Square, where there is a business There are school buses, there is public transportation, there are very beautiful residential homes, as we have. There is one wide lane of traffic in either direction. There is the Furnace Brook Parkway intersects, and I think there's another major road that intersects. It is a lovely boulevard. I believe we could have the same thing on our part of town. And I would also like to suggest that you not take any steps at all to add traffic lights until you design a narrower, slower road and see after that if traffic lights are necessary. Anybody who has been rear-ended at a traffic light knows that they are not magical ways to fix traffic problems. People go fast, they don't pay attention, they're in a hurry, and they slam into the cars that are stopped in front of them. We have heard that we may have 116-wheel trucks a day using that road to use our landfill from neighboring communities. I don't want to be stopped at a red light when one of those trucks comes down the hill too fast. Thank you.
Bunny Thomas, 1237 Randolph Ave. Bunny Thomas, 1237 Randolph Ave. I'd go along and all in favor on just painting the road right now to test it out. I think that's a great idea. Before spending the millions of dollars you want to do, paint's cheap, needs to be painted anyways. They get 2 lanes, 1 turn lane in the center, try it out, see how it works. You're going to still get the same volume down there. They're going to squeeze it a little bit, they'll get down there. But I think that was a great idea. I think the state should be doing that right now, right off the bat, to test it, see how it flows, and work it from there. And I would like to see a lot of trees on the side of the road, too.
Anyone else?
My name is Richard Keenan. I live at 43 Allen Avenue. I don't see any crosswalks on the road. I was wondering if you'd like to address that.
To the best of my knowledge, at the moment, we just have crosswalks at the signalized intersections.
Did you count the bus stops on the road?
Yes.
How many you come up with?
I think there are 10. I have the list of them.
Do you think that people cross the street to get on the bus?
I did. We had sidewalks there for the bus stops. I didn't want to put crosswalks across the 4-lane highway. I didn't feel comfortable with it. I didn't feel that people should cross the sidewalk there and expect traffic to stop for them. They'd be able to stop at Chickatawbut, at Hillside, and then at Reedsdale.
How do you expect the people that live there to cross the street?
I realize that that's a problem.
Do you intend on addressing it?
Well, it was with the sidewalks and the crosswalk in the middle at Hillside.
Well, what if somebody doesn't want to walk a mile in one direction and then a mile in another to cross the street near where they live?
I don't have a good answer for that.
That's right. Thank you.
Thank you. Is that it? I think we understood your message, and I thank you all for coming here and staying the 2 hours, and I appreciate your level of interest in the project. Again, just a reminder, hopefully we were all able to get the last sheet of the brochure. If not, there's some additional forms up here where you can write down your comments and send them in. I would also suggest that the 4 of us will be here as long as you're interested in talking about the project. We can go up to the plans and we'll try and answer your questions as best we can. I'd like to thank the town for providing this hall, and I now declare this hearing closed. Thank you.